Maybe not the world's expert in this line, but I have some experience playing these positions. And I felt that this is a position that my higher rated opponent would feel least comfortable with. Because he doesn't have typical counterplay. Yes, he has the extra pawn, but it could be lost, and black is pretty much going to play for 2 results. But little did I know that Giri was still in his prep. And this is the difference between a super grandmaster and an average grandmaster like me. This is, you can say, a line that I know best. He has absolutely no games with this as black in the database, yet he actually knew this better than I did. Wow, what a really interesting tidbit of information, that super grandmasters are so well prepped in the openings that they even know sidelines better than some average grandmaster. So here he plays bishop takes knight. This is the first sort of surprise of the game. Normally, the move that I know here is rook to d8, and after queen a2, white eventually wins the pawn, but black does get counterplay, and specifically with this e5 pawn push. There's also this interesting move rook b8, which I faced before. It's not as easy to win the pawn back, but once again, white usually gets some counterplay, such as after the move knight d2. But if we go back here, the move that he played in the game, bishop takes knight, was a little bit of a surprise. Okay, I don't have much of a choice. Followed by rook to b8. This is actually a very important move. If you don't play this move, white's about to play queen a4, win the pawn, beautiful center, beautiful bishop, and nice pressure on the half-open file will obviously give me an advantage. Now queen a4 is bad. Can you guys try to figure it out? Well, of course, it's easy enough. b5 is the answer. With the tempo, he attacks the queen and defends the pawn. And I don't really have full compensation here. I have to move the queen again and lose the tempo. So I'm still relatively comfortable here. So I played the move knight d2. This is a common theme. Opening up the bishop and, more importantly, putting pressure on the pawn. Knight a5. And queen a4 is again logical move. And again, I just need one more move, knight takes c4, to be really comfortable. And the reason is I have a better pawn structure. Notice all my pawns are on dark squares. This guy cannot attack them. And the second thing is the bishop is so much better than black's counterpart on c8. So I was feeling pretty happy here, right guys? Get in such a comfortable position against high-rated opponent. Yet, his next move sort of opened my eyes that position is not as simple. b6. All of this he played really quickly, meaning that he's still in his prep. And now I realize that after logical move knight takes pawn, things are not so simple. Bishop a6 puts tons of pressure and virtually requires me to sack the exchange after knight takes, bishop takes f1. Now, of course, I can play this position and I can take on f1, for instance, with the rook, pawn takes, queen a5. I'm putting pressure over there. Obviously, I have a strong bishop, so I do have some compensation, but is it really enough? I wasn't sure, and playing for 2 results, now either white draws or loses, is not part of my plan. So I definitely didn't want to go into this position, even though probably white has some compensation here. And the question is, what do I do? This is a pretty big question. I can't take the pawn on c4 because I lose the exchange. And his next move may be bishop a6. So I thought here for a long time, and I thought I came up with a clever move, queen b5. The idea being is that if he plays a6, which is a logical move, I simply drop the queen back. I can play either queen a4 or queen b4, and the c-pawn is really weak. For instance, queen a4, b5 is never an option because knight's hanging, and once I take the pawn, I even up the material, white has no problems. I also calculated the move queen e7, and after knight takes c4, bishop d7. It looks as though the queen is trapped, but can you guys figure out how white can get out of it? That's right, very simple move, queen to a6. And after bishop to c8, I have a pleasant choice.